I'm Graham Whitaker, thank you very much for agreeing to chat to me about professional development.
Right.
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So, interested in a couple of things, and I guess for yourself, 2 points of view. So, first, personally, how do you go about identifying your own learning needs? What does that look like, that process?
Yeah, Ken, thank you. And so, I have a slightly atypical general practice now in that I work with the students at Otago University, and that's a rather narrower demographic than you get in ordinary general practice. So when I took on the role in 2017, I thought, okay, there are some specifics here that I need to upskill on, and those specifics include things like mild to moderate mental health, areas of sexual health, and I guess in a way young adult or late adolescent health as well. So I felt that there was definitely a need to just brush up and upskill in some of those areas. However, I also work part-time at Roslyn Health Centre, and that's an ordinary suburban general practice, and so the wider demographic from babies to old people meant that I also needed to continue to be aware of trends in aged care, and more recently there have been some quite profound developments in terms of respiratory health, cardiovascular health, and of course mental health. So all of those areas demand, I think, an ongoing awareness of changes, a need for, well, CPD.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're often reflecting, and I would assume working with others in your practice to think about the particular issues affecting your patient population, and then that is one of the drivers for professional development?
Yes, it is, and I think peer review groups are a good forum really to highlight and on reflection, self-reflection, think, oh yes, okay, I'll just try and plug that gap or that area where I'm a little bit less sure of some of these issues. So I think that's a good forum to do it. Peer review like that and peer reflection, I think, is incredibly valuable.
What does a good peer review group or session look like? What are some of the key elements to make that really valuable?
I think the elements to avoid are just making it a chit-chat social session, because I have seen peer review groups like that. So I think peer review groups need to be challenging to a degree. Not threatening but challenging, so that you learn from those challenges. And so I'm in 2 peer review groups, one at Student Health and another out in the community with a group of mainly older GPs, and we go around different surgeries and host it, and that the person who hosts it is on the mat, if you like, in the hot seat to talk about their management of particular patients, and have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Why didn't you do this or that? And it challenges you to look at your own practice and just make sure that it's keeping up to date. Because I have the utmost respect for my colleagues in the peer review group and think they seem all pretty good docs. So if I can pass muster with them, hopefully that makes me a good doc too.
I think that sounds like a really good approach. Now, thinking about other professional development opportunities, we're here at GP19 here in Dunedin. When you come away from sessions like this, or indeed any professional development activity that, it's been an investment, time and money, which are both scarce commodities.
Yes.
Probably time more so for GPs. How do you evaluate your learning, or how do you work out if you've got value from those learning opportunities? What do you do?
Right. So I think that to add to your list there about expenses and time, I'd also add the word privilege, because I think it's a privilege to be able to study. And a lot of us, after years and years of working forget that. But so this is an opportunity to learn and of course to socialise. But I think that if you come away with an invigorated feeling, then I think the conference has been worthwhile. The invigoration because of stimulation of new ideas, the thought, hey, look, I'm keeping up to date with things, and as an older GP, I think that you actually have to be even more aware of keeping up to date with your CPD. In a way, you almost have to overcompensate, because if you make a mistake, if all of us can make mistakes, but if you make a mistake as an older GP, people start to question, are you past it? And so you've got to really make sure that any doubters can be silenced by the fact that you've really done your best to keep up to date.
Yeah. Final two thoughts then. One is, so maybe you've come across a real gem, a little piece of learning, and you went, oh, actually, that's really valuable. How do you go about applying that to your practice, or perhaps even sharing that with others? What kind of process do you go through for that, perhaps?
Well, one of the new things for me in coming to conferences, and I try to get to 2 conferences a year, so this and also Christchurch in a couple of weeks are my sort of diet of conferences this year. But at Student Health, the expectation is that we will bring learnings from this conference to a peer review group. So it's not just for me then, but also for my colleagues.
That sounds like a good way of connecting back to that learning.
Well, the neat thing is at Student Health, I do get partially reimbursed for my conference fee, but the quid pro quo there is that I feed back to my colleagues, so that there's value in the service that I work in. And I hadn't really seen that emphasis before, or felt that need to so deliberately feed back. In the past, with my own general practice, I would just take the learnings and that was me really, and my colleagues likewise. But now I have an enhanced feeling that, sharing and giving back, I think is an important part of hopefully what a conference like this offers.
I think that's a great approach and a really positive message. Do you have any other messages, or what would you say to your profession about the value of CPD? You got any take-home messages for them?
My feeling about CPD is don't see it as a chore, see it as an avenue to making sure that you can be the best doctor that you can be, and stay current with what is always a reasonably quickly changing field. So to the extent that CPD is seen as a chore, I don't think you get the best out of it. So embrace it, try and have a positive attitude, and I think sort of good things will come from that. And so CPD, I remember the days when we didn't have to really make ourselves accountable. I think CPD is one of the very good planks of accountability, both to our colleagues, but of course most importantly to our patients.
I think that's a great message. Graham Whitaker, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.